If you want to heal your anxious attachment style, this episode is for you. Disclaimer, I'm not a therapist or doctor. This content is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to diagnose, treat, or heal any mental health condition. If you're in an abusive relationship or dealing with severe mental health challenges, always seek professional advice. So I used to be anxiously attached. This used to be me, basically, if you're watching on YouTube or on the video version. And this was always the partner who I used to attract, because anxious attachment usually attaches to the avoidant partner. And even in friendships and in life in general. However, it is possible that your friendships are kind of secure, or at work you're showing up as your most secure version. But then in romantic relationships, as soon as you enter them, you're like anxiously attached again. So I want to show you through this kind of little visual representation how this might look like and the consequences for that, and then 3 things how to really shift this behavior to become more secure. So right now in your head you're showing up like this. So you can see, don't know if you can see this very well, but there is this massive, overlap of this is you and this is your partner. And the relationship right now is this intersection where it interlaps. I don't know if maybe you can see better if I shift the camera where you can see it in the light. So the middle section where you can see where it shines through is a relationship. And you can see only a tiny little space left is for yourself and for your partner. Let's talk about how a secure relationship looks like, because as a secure version of yourself, you would have to shift into more this balanced area where you still have yourself, your life, your routines, your hobbies left, and your partner also has still a sense of self. They have their things going on. And then there's one section in the middle where you can meet in the middle, where you can meet and have a shared meaning, shared hobbies, where you just meet in the middle for, where you communicate, where you do things together, where you talk about things together, and where you have a part that is just for you and where you invest time together and experiences. And you notice not everything is a relationship, but that's just a part of it. So you basically really very much, you're okay by yourself, but you also are happy in this relationship container. And if you are, I just talked about the other attachment styles quickly just to get a better understanding of what else is there. So this is now the secure attachment style. And if you're more avoidant, basically the person you're attracted to, their ideal relationship scenario is more like this. So this is how they feel safe. When they have a lot of freedom, a lot of space, a lot of autonomy, a lot of choice, and they don't feel really safe with commitment, with the relationship taking over everything, with always talking about the relationship, always fixing it. And this is where you, as an anxious attachment style, feels very unsafe, right? You always want to have the relationship as a main focus. This is where you thrive, and you are probably a hopeless romantic like I am. So you wouldn't mind if you completely disappear in the relationship, unless later on things don't really work out. You're going to have conflict and you build resentment, and then you're losing yourself. You kind of are in this very unhappy container, but to that in a minute. So then we have, this is the anxious attachment style again. We have the secure. This is the more avoidant. And then, it basically is the disorganized attachment style is the last attachment style. And that is a mix between anxious attachment style, so this, and avoidant attachment style, so this. So they swing in between these two. They really want closeness and they want love and they really want this connection, but they have learned because of their childhood wounds, because of their experiences, because they have been brought up in an environment that felt very scary, where love sometimes was really nice, they sometimes received it. Let's say their mom was an alcoholic or their dad, so it felt very good in the moment, they had a good day, but suddenly when the bad alcoholic role popped out more, and some days they got shouted at or they got ignored. So sometimes then love felt very unsafe, very scary again. So then they shift more into the avoidant. So it always shifts in between here. So these are just the 4 ways how you can visually imagine the attachment styles. Or again, here just drawn as an overview. So you are probably here. This is your avoidance, your partner's ideal scenario. This is where you want to get to. And this is then this disorganized attachment style swings between closeness and space. So now let's talk about it. What is actually really the bad thing about being here? How to shift then into the more secure attachment style. Because first of all, I want you to know there's nothing bad about any of this. The first step actually into becoming more secure is accepting who you are right now and what you are right now. You're not anxious attached. You're not that anxious person. You may be leaning more to this style. You may be leaning more to needing more reassurance, being a little bit more sensitive because you're born with a sensitive nervous system. You might be more emotional, and that is all okay. But anxious attachment, there's 2 different things I want you to know. First of all, anxious attachment is nothing you're born with, but there are other things that are often I see are also happening at the same time. Like, for example, if you're born with a very sensitive nervous system, that could be something you're born with, like I am. And I can see very often that anxious attachment are also additionally very hypersensitive to things. That could be to noise, to light, to arguments, to uncertainty, to anything more unpredictable. That if there's conflict in a relationship, that is there anything else going on that you are just anyway more triggered than someone who is not as sensitive to that. So you need more love and more validation and more warmth. And if then your caregivers were not able to give you that extra, which is, normal, because especially years back then, now everything, all the information is much more accessible. Everyone can go to YouTube and ChatGPT and get all of the information, and even information overload. But just even like 10 years ago, definitely not 20 years ago, there wasn't this information overload, and they had a lot of different tools than we have nowadays, and a lot of different understanding of what it is. So, it's important to start with saying, you know what, our parents had the tools they had at that time, and they did their best they could to, at that moment. And now it's time for you as an adult to give yourself the tools that you have available at that moment, and you can learn more tools for yourself. It's not helpful to say, oh, I'm this person and I can't change, because that's not the truth. You are probably more leaning towards one attachment style, and you can also, if you want, from this moment of accepting what you are right now, where you're leaning towards, how you feel, then shifting and going to a different attachment style, learning more tools, how to cope with your more sensitive nervous system. But everything started for me when I just accepted, I am just very hypersensitive, and that part will never change. However, because I am this way, my mom is and my sister is, I can learn more to feel my emotion and to soothe myself and to cope with it. So I think this is a really important part to realize, because if you don't, you will always try to get this from your partner. You will try to treat him as a therapist, as a caregiver, try to see him now as a replacement of your parents, and think subconsciously, you think, oh, they didn't give me what I needed from childhood. Now, they're supposed to make me feel safe. They're supposed to give me the reassurance and validation and affirmation and everything now, but it's even more reinforced through social media, through your friendships, and you see all the good things, but you don't see what is actually happening as well behind closed doors. And you missing the point of you are capable now to giving this to yourself. That is so much more empowering than just relying on your partner, the relationship. Yeah. So if this is right now you and your dynamic in your relationship, or usually the one you're attracting to or you creating, because maybe you're single right now, but this is the one you're always creating once you fall into relationships. I want you to, first of all, notice what are the consequences of this, and then from then onwards, you can shift into a secure pattern. One thing is very important, that you will lose yourself in this dynamic. As you can see, a tiny bit of this circle is left for yourself. This is you, this is your partner, and this is a relationship, meaning you will lose yourself because it feels safer to just be who others want you to be, or you think at least. So you people please, you shape shift. You, on dates, maybe you are waiting for them to reveal answers about what kind of music they like, what they like to do outside of work. And you kind of wait for the answers, and then you kind of, bend yourself into a pretzel and give the answers you think, okay, this will something they might like. And over time, 20, 30 years later, you don't even know what's your favorite color, what do you like to do, because you've abandoned yourself more and more. And as you can see, I think this visualizes it even more, that only like this entire thing is now in the relationship, and you're just thinking about the relationship. You're never thinking about yourself anymore. What do you actually feel in your body? What do you actually need? So many times, like, we don't even realize, hey, I'm actually thirsty, I need water, or actually, no, I need to go to the toilet. Even those very simple things of giving yourself the needs you actually are craving. We're often just waiting and pushing it back, that eventually we have like lost the connection to our body. We don't even realize when we're breathing very shallow and when we're in this fight or flight energy. Because when things are very urgent for us, often anxiety shows up. Like, anxiety kind of wants us to talk it out right now, solve it right now. So we're chasing our partner around and saying, oh, why do you not want to talk about this again? Or why do you not want to fix it? You don't care about me. In fact, this is you being in survival mode right now, and you're not regulated. And another thing is, because of the overlap, you're overestimating the importance of the relationship and your partner, and underestimating yourself and the resources and skills you have to handle challenges. You're over depending on your partner, the relationship, to make everything okay, to sort and solve things for you. And you're not even trying to fix things for yourself. And it can be even simple things like, I remember a few years back when I had a technical issue on my laptop and my partner was busy as well. And I asked my partner to fix it for me. It's a very typical thing, right? You think, oh yeah, man is supposed to fix things for you. And I didn't even try to fix it, first of all. And I just over-relied on my partner. And usually anxious attachment over-relies on their partner for emotional safety. But I even noticed there, I just over-relied on my partner for everything else, just because it's, supposed to be done this way. Just because, men are technical, and I haven't even tried to fix it for myself. But if you add more and more and more things, like onto your partner's plate, onto the relationship, you will train yourself that I can't do this. I don't even try. And you will lose trust in yourself. You are depending more on this. And then if things are going bad, because you are great, right? You're thriving if the relationship's going well. You're amazing. You're in your most amazing area. There's everything going well for you. That's why you usually thrive in the honeymoon phase so much. However, you will have a really huge wake-up call after the honeymoon phase, usually, when this push and pull cycle is being revealed, when you're having conflict, when you're trying to chase more, and this person is trying to escape a little because they're triggered as well. And then you have only this tiny section to rely on. You only have yourself to go back to, because now the relationship is at trouble. There's conflict, trying to escape and trying to regulate themselves and avoiding their own emotions, and they don't usually have the tools as well to solve conflicts, to regulate, to express themselves. So when everything is good because it's everything right now in your relationship. It's taking over 90% of your entire life. However, if things are bad, everything is bad because it's taking over so much. I hope I make sense here. So it's important to not have everything in your life evolve around your relationship or your partner. Because another thing is the consequences is actually right now you're crossing boundaries. If you are overlapping a little bit like this, like a secure attachment style would, you still have your place, you still have your life. And your partner has enough space to breathe, to go after their own hobbies, to regulate and just come down to themselves and to just deal with their own stress because they don't really feel safe to open up to others always, even though they're in a relationship with you, but they often need their PlayStation or their time after work to just decompress a little bit. And then they come back to you more easily. However, if you don't give them the room, even from the beginning, when you want to talk things out, when you always want to be around them, they don't have any space. So right now you're crossing their boundaries all the time. What is not, I don't want to forget anything. Yeah, overall, you're basically very depending on your partner for not just only your emotional state, for security, for your self-worth, for everything else, because of this massive overlap in your relationship. The most important three things to shift into the more secure dynamic. So number one, to really shift this dynamic is you have to focus on you. To go into the secure space, you want to focus on you. You want to build a life outside the relationship. I know that's very hard because if you are wired for, I'm safe only with my partner in this close space, you're always watching him. You want to be with him because you're telling yourself it's not fun, I'm not safe. You trigger when they pull away, but you have to build a life outside of yourself to create a stronger sense of self, to know, hey, I have this hobby I can go back to. I'm actually having fun with my friends. I'm actually having fun just going for a walk and I'm okay. So you want to connect to yourself more and you stop abandoning yourself through these micro actions. Number two is you want to notice also your partner's needs and not in a way of putting your partner before you. No, you always prioritize yourself first because you are the most important person in your life. However, you want to also notice your partner's needs. And that could be because, as I showed you the dynamic, right now you're crossing your partner's needs and your partner's boundaries all the time here. That's why one shift is you want to notice, hey, what do they actually need? I can tell you right now what an avoidant attachment person needs. They need space, independence, autonomy, choice. So you can ask them exactly, hey, what does it mean for you in this relationship container? For example, if they want to go out with friends, if they need a bit more time after work, give this to them. If they already have expressed a need, don't try to argue it. Understand what this means for them. Try to understand your own needs as well. And usually, if you give them the space first, the freedom, then you will also get your needs met in the relationship because then they feel more safe and regulated. And then they will come back to you. Unless your partner, your avoidant, is not really into you. I have another episode on this where you can really more see, hey, is my partner just avoided or just not into me? And that's of course important to know. But because these are not just things where you meet your partner's needs, these are also things that help you move towards your own fear. Because all of these things are very scary for you, right? Like giving your partner space. Moving towards the scary things gradually will be everything for you. Sitting in the discomfort. This is literally gradual exposure therapy. It's like a rejection therapy as well. You will be so much more empowered afterwards. There is this quote, I don't think I can recall it, something like, at the end of fear is everything. I don't know. Something like this, but it will be so empowering for you if you do it in micro steps. And the last thing I want you to do is like really meet your own needs. So that can be self-soothing because it all starts with your emotions. To learn to sit with emotions, to self-soothe, to just breathe, to reparent yourself. That starts with giving yourself really the needs from your childhood that were unmet, unfulfilled, and be there for yourself. how would you treat like a toddler in the situations? Like we would ask them, what they need, how they feel, and then be kind to themselves, because often anxious attachment is really harsh, very critical to themselves. That means also showing up consistently, because consistent actions really build self-trust as well. And this is extremely important. You want to self-source. So again, meet your needs yourself independently. You don't want to ask your partner for the safety and the reassurance and the self-worth and the validation and all of these things. You don't want to wait for your partner to fill your cup, to do all of these things for you. First, you want to do this for yourself. And then as an addition, later on, you can meet this together. But if you don't fill your cup first, you are already starving and you kind of demanding it from your partner. And then you basically prove yourself through all of these actions that you can do it. You become more dependent on your partner, and you feel really confident, because confidence doesn't come from telling yourself, oh, I am confident, I am that girl, but by repeating actions, and then you creating proof, hey, you know what, I did this. I can do it again. And it felt maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but I did it. I survived it. So I hope that was helpful. I'll see you in the next episode of the Anxious to Secure podcast. Lots of love. You can do this. And remember, change in your relationship starts with you, thought by thought, action by action, and now episode by episode. Bye-bye.